Hello there. So in this video, I thought I'd dive into talking about some plans that I have for this year and wargaming in general, and sort of talk about the kind of armies that I want to build and stuff like that. So recently, a friend of mine has been excited about Age of Sigmar, and is doing a Soulblight Gravelords army with some of their friends that they know. Doing sort of like a 10 or 4 games thing, and that reminded me that I had the core rules and a whole bunch of Stormcast Eternals just lying around, and so I thought I'd break them out and sort of dive back into the game and see what it's all about, learn a little bit more from folks on the internet like the Honest Wargamer and stuff like that, and generally maybe give this game a little bit of another run, because I kind of discounted it really. Which is a bit of a shame, to be honest, because I've really come to love the growing world of Warhammer Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms, and I've really liked exploring it in the books and the role-playing game Age of Sigmar Soulbound as well. And so having this just sort of sitting there and me not doing anything with it just seemed like a little bit of a waste, really. And I've always much preferred the swords and sorcery, spells, magic, hammers, swords, griffins, dragons, and everything else when it comes to wargaming, rather than the sci-fi side of things, which is weird because I've just spent 2 years or so playing Warhammer 40k, and still playing 40k, obviously. But yeah, this seems like a good idea to dive in and have a look at the game itself. So I have a whole bunch of stuff that I already had the core rules sitting around in one of the boxes that I picked up for the start of the new edition, although of course I think another edition is coming later this year, so this may be short-lived. Also got myself the Stormcast Eternals Battle Tome, which contains everything you need to be playing as the Stormcast Eternals. All of the War Scrolls and stuff are available for free online anyway with Age of Sigmar, but it's just nice to have this, so I've got all the other different ways that the army can play and all that kind of stuff, including their enchantments and their battle traits and mount traits and prayers and spells and everything else in between. And it's also just been a really nice read. It's been a long time since I've sat down and actually read an army book. I think the last one I did was the Eldari one from 9th edition. But it's been absolutely fascinating reading through this and learning a lot more about the history of the Stormcast Eternals, the Mortal Realms, catching up with the story to date, and also sort of looking at how Games Workshop have really fleshed out the Mortal Realms over the last little while, and especially the Stormcast Eternals. I know a lot of people refer to them as kind of like Sigmarines, or basically just like fantasy space marines almost, but I think there's a lot more to them than that. I really like the flaws in the reforging process and how that comes across in the storyline. I think there's a really nice difference between the various types of Stormcast Eternals in their different hosts, as it were, and it's just there's a real draw to them as a force, because they're both simple to paint, but also you can start to apply a lot more character and stuff to them as you go through, a little bit like Space Marines, obviously. But yeah, I just think there's some really impressive stuff in their collection, and especially with the two different, I guess this is really weird, but the two different styles of armor, or marks of armor, maybe you could call them if you wanted to keep with the Space Marine theme. You can do some really nice stuff between the two forces, which is always good. My initial thoughts when diving into the game, though, were that I wanted to do an 1,000-point force, and I had a lot of stuff already basically ready to go. So over the last few years, I painted up the contents of the original starter set. So these were my Stormcast Eternals from back in the day, with their purple and their blue and their kind of like stone armor. I was kind of trying to do them as like stone Templars, almost like statues. And I really enjoyed working on these. And obviously these models are a little bit out of date now in terms of painting style and stuff compared to where I am now. But because everything was painted like this, I thought it would be a real shame to not continue the trend of building up this army. And so I took what I had before. So I had obviously the model for Vandus Hammerhand, who could be used as a Lord Celestant on Dracoth. I had all my liberators as well, painted up in this cool style, which I thought was quite nice. Really enjoyed working on those as well. So you got my liberators. I had my, of course, my Ionis Cryptborn, my Lord Richter model, very cool. I've got others. Had my Retributors. Ooh, dear. Another Lord Celestant there, which I painted up in a different scheme. So this is going to be the scheme that I use for my Vanguard forces. Because I like the idea of maybe 2 storm hosts working together towards a common goal, like they do sometimes in the books. And so I thought, and also it was just a nice opportunity to paint something a little bit different as well, actually. And I really liked the blue. I thought it was a good option. Then I had a lot of all the core stuff was pretty much done and ready to go. So the core stuff was Hammerhand, Cryptborn, the 2 units of 5 Liberators, the 3 Retributors, and then there were 3 of the Prosecutors, which I still really like how those wings turned out. I think that's pretty cool, if I say so myself. So yes, they were also part of that army. However, I also had a lot of stuff lying around. So I also bought myself, way back in the day, a start collecting set. And so that's where I kind of expanded the army. So now the 1,000-point army is that, plus 2 more of the Retributors to get them up to a unit of 5, which is their basic limit anyway. So I don't know why they only put 3 in the original box, which is weird. A Lord Celestant, which is this fellow here, who is going to be on foot fighting alongside my warriors. And then this unit, a unit of the Judicators with their bows. So the 3 heroes in the force are actually this Lord Celestant here, the Lord Relictor, and then, because I had Silver Tower, just let me find him, I also had this Knight Questor, which is going to be another of the characters for the set. I thought it turned out quite nice. So he's going to be thrown into the mix. Vandus is not in that squad, but then that gets me up to 1,000 points, right? So that's 1,000 points of Stormcast Eternals, ready and raring to go, looking pretty badass. The Prosecutors aren't in there either, actually. So the actual army, just to clarify, is those 3 heroes. So it's the Knight Questor, the Lord Relictor, and the Lord Celestant. 2 units of 5 Retributors, the 5... Liberators, the 5 Retributors, and then the 5 Judicators. That's 1,000 points, or 960 points, I think, is the actual number that I got to with that. That felt like a pretty good army, all in all. The thing that then, when it comes to actually making the army itself, I've gone for. Oops, let's not move that too far. I've gone for, get through all of this, blah, 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 blah. That's the, I've gone for Signs of the Storm rather than the Watchful Guardians one, because I think that works better, rather than the Stormkeep one, because I think that's better for what I'm doing. I've gone for the Anvils of the Heldenhammer, I want to say, because those are the dudes who have the, let me see if I can find the army rules. I think they're further through here, actually, because they're the like grim dudes, which I thought was quite a good match. It's somewhere in here, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, I've gone for the one that allows me to do some cool shit with their the morale test that they make. Or no, they cancel the hits that they do that you get. The hits are cancelled before they attack your unit at the start, so it's quite cool. I'll put some more information down below so that it doesn't feel weird that I'm just kind of just babbling through here, I suppose. But yes, so it'll be that and that. And then a couple of extra things. So it was fun learning about things like command traits. I think it was Staunch Defender was the one, I thought. Because I thought it was pretty good. Although maybe it was Envoy of the Heavens. I think it might have been Envoy of the Heavens that I went for as the command trait for the leader, for the Lord Celestant. And then Call for Aid was the unique enhancement that I had. Just allows you to set up another Redeemer unit on the tabletop when one of them dies, which I thought was good. And then it was all about sort of diving in and trying to work out what I needed to learn about the actual rest of the rules, basically, to get stuck into Age of Sigmar. So one of the things that was a bit confusing to me is that there seemed to be a lot of terminology around things straight out of the bat, but I think I've kind of nailed it now. So when it comes to building an army, you can put things into these battalions that give you certain benefits. I think I managed to put some into something. It was one of these, or it was one of the Stormcast specific ones that allowed me to do a one drop with certain elements of the army. So that's one drop deployment with a bunch of models all in one go. And then it was just a case of looking through things like triumphs and all that kind of other stuff to work out which ones I'd be going for in the game and stuff like that. And as I dive into it, as I say, it's been a little bit of a learning curve because it doesn't feel as well laid out as something like the 10th edition rulebook at the moment, especially with things like these command abilities being spread out all over the book in different places. There's a reference sheet that you can get in the starter set, which I will be using, that has all of those on the back, so you don't actually have to keep flicking through to find everything. But I will say there were a few things here and there which kind of threw me off a little bit, but that's only maybe because I've been reading 10th edition at the moment, to be honest. I'm really interested to see how the games actually play out, because I like that the different battle plans between pitched battles for the match play one, and then Contest of Generals and pitched battles. Between those two, you've got some really interesting things going on there. I like that they've done it so that your objective scoring feels thematic, rather than it being necessarily random. And you choose, the fact that you can choose what you want to try and achieve that turn, I think is a really good way of focusing people and having them think about their objectives rather than drawing randomly or feeling like you have to pursue a particular end game. I think the triumph is also a really nice little way to kind of balance things. So that's a mechanic whereby if you have less points on the table than your opponent, you can use a triumph, which is like a once per game thing, to gain sort of an edge, which I think is a nice little carryover from sort of older editions of the game where you didn't necessarily have points cost and stuff. So yeah, it's been interesting reading through it, and it's sort of been a learning curve almost. I have this 1,000 points basically ready to go, to be honest, as part of my Stormcast Eternals army. The other thing that's going to be interesting is that I have a load of Thunderstrike stuff, which I haven't shown off here, but I do have sitting around, and I almost have 1,000 points worth of Thunderstrike stuff at the same time. Now I've painted them very differently, whereas all of these fellows have been painted up in this kind of Stone Templar look, or in the case of the Lord Celestant and any more of the Vanguard models, it'll be this kind of blue. While I've gone for the older style of armor, I'm actually going to be doing the Grim Dark style on all of my Thunderstrike stuff. And I have enough as part of Warcry warbands and also from the start boxes and a couple of other pickups from sort of the Partworks magazines that I can make a really nice secondary 1,000 point army that is more Thunderstrike focused than old school Stormcast Eternals. I'm sure things might change when the new start box or whatever comes out and I start to see the new Stormcast models hit the tabletop. But yeah, it's been interesting diving back into the fantasy side of Warhammer and Age of Sigmar. And even though I've been talking about things like the old world and stuff at the moment as well, I think there's space for this game on the tabletop because I think it actually could be a lot more fun than other games that I've been tinkering with at the moment. Like 40k is great and everything, but as I say, I've always been a fantasy fan, and so diving back into this seems like a really good idea. I don't think there's any other faction really that kind of makes me want to dive in and have another shot at them. Potentially Slaves to Darkness. Potentially some evil stuff I think could be quite fun. Maybe Skaven with the new edition, who knows. But yeah, I'm really liking where the Stormcast are at the moment, and the fact that I had a little bit of a head start by having all the old models is just great. Obviously, I do actually have a Chaos Demon force, my Golden Demons, that could easily be used in this because they're all on round bases, obviously. But yeah, I think it's been fun diving into something a little bit different and playing around with the game. Please let me know if you play Age of Sigmar and whether or not you also struggled with some of the stuff to begin with in the game. I genuinely think the mechanics are actually really good, and I think it'll lend itself to some really fun games on the tabletop, but I'd also like to hear what other people have thought about the game as well, because, as I say, I'm really getting excited about it, especially with that new edition coming as well. So yeah, I'm going to move on and dive into another video in the future, but for now, thanks for watching. Share your comments, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.